Hello, all. I would first like to welcome all of you to the Royal Oak campus of Beaumont Health System. My name is Ken Young, and I am the Clinical Pathology Specimen Processing Supervisor for Royal Oak. I would like to take a moment to talk to you about the Laboratory Test Directory, often referred to simply as the LTD or the Bible of the Lab. As laboratory professionals and medical students, the LTD is your most valuable source of information for patient testing. Contrary to the popular belief, the LTD is not just another online reference. It couldn't be further from the truth in this instance. The LTD itself is very much an organic reference manual in that it is constantly in a state of update, if you will, as changes occur in testing methodologies or test codes, new tests being added, and so forth. You can immediately see its importance and value to the clinician. Okay, before we go any further, I'd like you all to take a moment to click on the link to the laboratory test directory that you were provided and place this page in your favorites column so you have it for immediate access and for your future reference. Okay, now let's take a look at an example together. In the search box where you see my cursor, I'd like you to type in the letters CBC. Now let's cap this up a little bit, make it easier. CBCWD. There we go. Hit search. Stop right here for a moment and let's take a look at the information already provided to us. We have a direct hit, complete blood count with differential, and there it is, CBCWD. Below it, and in some cases you'll see many, some cases you'll see a few, and in some you won't see any. These are referred to as the also known as test names, or AKA. In this instance, we have CBC/diff, CBC/D, and peripheral smear. All of these mean the same thing. You're looking for a CBC with diff. At the end, you'll notice the ordering test codes, primarily used for EPIC and SOFT now. If you were ordering an EPIC, you would order lab 5139. If you're entering the test in SOFT, you would type in CBCWD. Let's go into the test. Click onto the link. What you're going to find as you look at any test in the lab directory is a similar setup. Where the variance is depending on the test, it will have some minimal information, which is still everything that you need. It may have a considerable amount of information, perhaps related to specimen preparation, either on the patient's half or on behalf of the testing area where the specimen's being collected. Let's take this a piece at a time. Again, at the top, complete blood count with differential, CBCWD, and they also notice that you have the AKA names listed below, as we discussed earlier, in addition to the ordering test codes. Below that are the specimen collection criteria. In this case, it states as a preferred specimen, collect 1 4 ml lavender top EDTA tube, with the minimum volume requirement indicated. The other acceptable specimen is a lavender microtainer, and again, with the minimum collection volume. Below that, you'll find any specific type of directions for the physician's office or the draw site. In this case, you need to maintain a specimen refrigerated prior to transport, and its viability at room temp is 8 hours maximum. If you're going to have a courier pick this up, the preparation the office needs to make is to make sure that it's whole blood, remains refrigerated, and again, the minimum volumes indicated, whether it's, in this case, a standard collection tube or a microtainer. The next item refers to rejection criteria. This is what will cause a specimen to be not viable. The main issues are any specimens containing clots for this particular test, an insufficient volume, where we would refer to it as QNS, or quantity not sufficient. There's not enough to test. If the specimen becomes frozen for some reason, it becomes no longer viable. Any of these instances would require a recollect on the patient. Under storage, these are applicable to the office or the laboratory setting in order to retain specimen viability. In the case of our CBC, the specimen is viable for 8 hours at room temperature, refrigerated for 72 hours, and as we discussed under rejection criteria, it is unacceptable if the specimen is frozen. A little further below, we find the headings under laboratory and performed. Laboratory refers to those laboratories which perform this particular test. And as you can see indicated, Farmington Hills, Grosse Pointe, Royal Oak, and Troy Hematology Laboratories perform those tests. Under performed, it will indicate the frequency for which. As this is a routine test, it is run Sunday through Saturday, 24 hours a day. A CBC with DIF, as indicated here, can be ordered as a STAT test, which would be available within 30 minutes for results. 60 minutes if any further verification is necessary upon receipt in the laboratory. A routine result would be available within 90 minutes unless any further verification is needed. Moving down below, we see the reference ranges established at this time for this particular test. And they're just that. They're the current reference ranges for the test in question. Pediatric ranges, where applicable, are also established and can be viewed via the link. As we get to the bottom, it indicates the specific testing methodologies used for the given test, a test's clinical utility, and the phone numbers of the specific laboratories should you have any further technical questions. Okay, so now you have the basics for what the LTD can provide the clinician. I want to try something different with you. Let's go back to the top. Click the back button, which brings us our search box once again. This time, I want you to enter the word testosterone and hit search. Okay, well now we have a number of choices. Instead of a direct hit, we have 6 tests to choose from. So let's use this scenario. Our patient is an adult male, and we want to check his total testosterone level. What test should we select? If you chose testosterone total, adult male, test code, TESTG, you're correct. So let's click on the test and have a look. Notice the similar setup. Test name, testosterone total, adult male. Notice that there's no AKA, or also known as. This one, it is what it is. The ordering test codes, the specific instructions for how this test is used, the specimen collection criteria. In this case, there's an additional note for patient preparation at the Royal Oak campus only. This should be taken into consideration by the clinician depending on where they are collecting the test and if it's applicable to the clinical picture. I can't stress enough the importance of following the directions stated in the lab test directory for any given test. Failure to follow the LTD generally results in an improperly collected specimen and a possible unnecessary recollect, which is something we always want to avoid if at all possible. You can now see the value the LTD provides. And to elaborate a little further, if there is a problem with the specimen, clinical pathology processing or any of the testing departments will quote the lab test directory for the reasons why a specimen is unacceptable. If you were to contact client services requesting information on how to collect or prepare a given test, they will also quote the lab test directory to provide that guidance to you. Consistent, proper use of the lab test directory results in proper collection of specimens, appropriately prepared for transport to the laboratory for testing if collected off-site, and reduces the chance of a specimen being rejected and helps avoid recollecting a patient. I'd like you to now complete the 2 quizzes. The first is the LTD quiz, where you use the lab test directory to seek out specific information. The second is match the tube to the test, where you need to match the test to the proper specimen tube. Thank you for your time today.